What's up? I'm making another video, kind of video notes for myself. Again, I make these videos so when I have an epiphany, these are kind of like my book notes. People write notes in books. What I do is I make videos because I know the best way to teach something, or I'm sorry, the best way to learn something is to teach something. And I had nobody to teach, so I started teaching myself. And I just make them public just because it feels weird to have personal video diaries. But yeah, that's really the only reason. It just kind of felt weird if I didn't make it public. I don't really expect anybody to watch this, but if you do, you're more than welcome to. This one is about passionate love. I had a buddy talk to me about how, and this buddy came out of a lot. He's a really handsome dude. He's handsome. He is very successful, and long story short, he came out with he could pretty much get any girl what he wanted, and he did, and he did a lot. And he came from a background of drinking and all this stuff too, but and he's still in good shape, and he's an athlete too. And so he walked away from that all, and he got saved, and he's living for God now. And he's just having a conversation with me. He's like, dude, I uh, I I'm so envious of these people who have such passionate relationships with God. He's like, I feel like I want to live my whole life all the time, and it feels guilty that I even want to. He's like, I know that God's everything. I know that He provides my all, but I'm just struggling wanting Him. He wants to want Him, but he just struggles wanting Him. And he's like, I envy these people who have such passionate relationships about God. And this video is about that. It's after my own reflections on, okay, how do people have relationships about God? And first of all, I can never tell anybody this advice. So don't ever try to explain to somebody that, don't ever try to explain to somebody how to please God if God's not answering them. Because me as a man, if God's not answering their questions, their prayers to Him, who's to say that I'm to answer it for Him by a how-to method? There is no how-to method. Love is one of these things that it's open communication between them and God. I might be able to just to point them somewhere, but there is no how-to method. There's no black and white answer to it, and there's a gray area in it, and that's why it's beautiful, because there's no absolute necessarily. So this is kind of what that's about. And the first thing that I wanted to just point out is a lot of times love, especially even a relationship with God, it can be comparable to porn and sex. And that's what this is, two little stick figures. Um, because we view it as something that's like this magical thing, and it gives you this ecstasy that's like, yes, every time. But here's the problem. It's not really like that. Or is it? I don't know. You see people that are on fire and passionate, and you can only guess that they're like that all the time. And it's the same way that, with that industry, the porn industry, it's like, that's what it's like. I can't wait then. And then it's not really like that. And then you find out it's a lot more than that. And it's this is kind of the way I see of how having a passionate relationship with God is so much more than just having a passionate relationship with God. That's kind of like the tip of the iceberg. Relationships a lot more times feel like this. And this is a guy trying to give a girl flowers, and she's just like, no. So it feels a lot more like that. Let me kind of give you an essence and a breakdown of what love really is. And tell me how happy these words sound and how fun these are. Well, it's patient. How fun is patience? That's one of the worst things ever, right? Well, it's kind. Kindness is kind of easy. You could fake it, but can you be genuinely kind to absolutely everybody you know? That's really hard to be kind to absolutely everybody you know. You have to have a genuine love for them. I don't even know them, but love's kind. Doesn't matter if you know or not. It's just there whether you're ignorant of it or not. That's kind of tough for me. What if I don't know? What if I don't know the other side of it? Love them anyway. Does not envy. I have no envy for that other person or that other, whether it be God or person. I have no envy over them whatsoever. I'm happy no matter what situation they're in, no matter how much more success they have. I don't envy them whatsoever. It's not boasting and unselfish. I lose myself in it. There's no pride. It's completely humble to the other person. It's free-willed and by choice. I'll get back to that one in a second. It's not insistent on its own way. Again, it's not selfish. Love bears all things. Bears all things. How fun does that sound, right? The bad, that's it. Love hopes all things. How fun is hope? Hope means something sucks and you want to get out of it, and hope it means you still didn't get there yet. Now, hope's one of the most powerful. Basically, it's one of the most powerful things on earth. It's even more powerful than fear. People will act in hope more than they will act in fear. However, hope is still one of those things. It feels good inside. It's like a light at the end of the tunnel, but that means you're still in a tunnel. Love endures all things. Enduring, that's one of those awesome words that you can't wait to endure this, right? Love endures. That doesn't sound fun at all either. Let's go back to the free will thing. So free will. A lot of people ask, well, how come we live in a world where, the Newberry or that Connecticut shooting things just happened? Why did God allow that? A lot of people ask that. And we live in a world that you can't have love unless you give people unlimited choices to whatever they want to choose. You can't have love without free will. That's why Jesus cried the day that those kids died. The day that those kids got shot, could he have stopped it? Yes. Yeah, absolutely. There's no doubt about it. He could have stepped in and intervened. Does that mean he doesn't love them? Absolutely not. That means he gave a world of free choice. He gave us the choice to either to choose him or choose whatever we wanted to. Is it unfortunate the choice that people make? Yes, but if God limited our choices, that would eliminate the act of love in a lot of ways. If he made our options only to black and white instead of any gray area that we wanted to, that eliminates love. You can't make somebody love you by setting a whole bunch of rules for them. How do you make somebody love you? By doing these things. It's unconditional. It doesn't matter what they do to you. It's patient. It's kind. You keep on going over and over and over and over and over and over. It endures all things. So when things like that, and tragedies like that happen, they're unexplainable. The only thing you can do is hug, cry. Cry with them. Cry alongside them. You don't just go give them an answer, stab an answer down the throat. That's why Jesus cried that day. I could all but promise you. He was in heaven crying. A lot of people don't think that's kind of weird, but they don't really think of it that way either. So back to my friend who's having trouble with a passionate relationship with God. He's living for God. He really, really is. I don't think that it goes unnoticed that my friend, he could have literally any girl he wanted to. And there are a lot of pretty girls, to be frank, that he was been with. But he gave it all up because he knew it was wrong. He chose Jesus instead. We live in a world right now where everything's fast. It's like that. That was the first time I've ever been able to snap to. Anyway, we live in a world where it's just internet age, where you could have anything you want to. Anything you want at the snap of the finger. This can happen at the snap of a finger. Any girl, any money, whatever you want to, the choice is there for you. We can go get a gun and we can shoot people if that's what we feel like we want to do. We live in a world where there's literally unlimited opportunity for us to actually have something take place. Out of all these choices, that literally trillions and trillions of choices that we can make, we still chose God in the midst of that. Do you think that doesn't go unnoticed? Let's say that out of everything, let's put it in the perspective of a human being. Out of all of these things, let's say the person that you adored, out of everything, they chose you. They chose you out of all of this. Out of every choice they possibly had, they wanted a sacrifice for you. They laid down their life for you. They did everything they can, and you saw them as beautiful. You saw them as just the most attractive person ever, and they laid down their life for you. Do you think would that feel good to you? It's beyond the passion. It's like, wow, this feels good. It's like romance. Now let's take into perspective how my friend's living. He gave up his sinful life. Let's take into perspective what God did for us. Do you think it was easy for God to send his son to die for us? Do you think that he was pumped about that? Do you think that's something that he really wanted to do? Do you think that's something that he really contemplated over? Do you think that's something that he second-guessed? I don't want to say second-guessed, but do you think that's something that he cried over? He was still willing to do that. That love looked like that, where he gave it all, and we still stand like this. How do you have a passionate relationship with God? You love him this way. Because only then and only then are you going to start to understand the way he loves us and how you can't possibly match the amount that he loves you back. When you start to really understand and live it, you can't just have somebody tell you. When you actually start to understand and live it out for him, your eyes are going to be open to like, whoa, this is a sacrifice. And look at the amount of sacrifice he made individually just for me. I was carefully woven in my mother's womb, and it was by his hand. Everything in my life has to be about that. Why? Because everything in his life is for me. When you start to understand that, worship becomes natural. Worship becomes something that you just want to do. You start to want to live for God. And that's when you start to glow, is when you start to understand and fully embrace the sacrifice he made for you back. So that's kind of a part one thing, and I'm sure I'm going to have a lot of this. But that starts to become real all of a sudden. Not in a way that it's instant gratifying, but it becomes, over time, the process of doing all those things, or these, when you start to do these things and you know that he's doing it back for you, you start to get the gratification that it looks like those guys are feeling. But it's not a shortcut. It's something that you're secure in it. So hopefully that makes sense. I'm going to probably watch this about 4 or 5 times and redo it if it doesn't. But awesome. See you guys.